Welcome back, everyone. So, today we have a person who is wondering what they should do about their current position because they're feeling really stressed out due to conflicts with their supervisor, and so they're wondering if they should change jobs or stay and try to tough it out. So, let's go ahead and get right into it. So, they start, where should I go from here? Should I suck it up and stay or find a new job? Starting to feel extremely burnt out now that I've been back in the office for a few months. I was also feeling extremely burnt out in March because of the virus. I was laid off from the end of March to the end of May, so I was able to get a few more months in before getting this feeling back. I, a 22-year-old female, work in a sales position for an insurance agency, auto, home, and life. I've worked full-time since I was 16, all related to customer service in some aspect. I started as a phone girl at a pizza shop and left that job as the front-end manager. I went on to being an infant toddler teacher. I loved it, but the pay was awful, even if I went back and got a degree. From there, I was a front-end manager for a hotel for a year. I got bored and hated the corporate rules and giving angry, disrespectful people rewards for treating staff like garbage. I went and spent 3 months working as a secretary at a repair shop for heavy-duty trucks. I loved the office setting, minimal customer service, and the freedom to pretty much do whatever I wanted as long as I got my work done. I left because my boss and I couldn't get along. He was 25 and I was 21, and we basically trash talked each other all day, every day. I then found my current job working in insurance sales. I just hit my 1-year mark last week. My major reason for wanting to leave is my boss. He is the most hypocritical, condescending man I have ever met. I have one other coworker besides him. There was 2, but she got fired during this outbreak. And he is now refusing to hire someone for her position, but yells at us all the time that we aren't doing enough sales now, that we have to cover service tasks as well. And she is one of the only things that keeps me there. She's worked for him for longer than I've been alive and also hates him, but he is very flexible and family-oriented, so that's why she stayed so long. I'd feel so bad leaving her alone, but we've talked about it and she understands. She just keeps telling me to keep it together and not leave without another job lined up, which is solid advice. When I started, I got hired on at $1 more an hour that I was making before, so I was happy. I also make commission at 5%. In January, he reduced our commission down to 3%. He also sent me to get licensed in life insurance and told me I'd get a raise when I completed it. I never did. But I also never asked about it because when I got back into the office from school, all he did was complain about money, so I knew it wasn't worth it. I'd end up stuck in his office listening to him complain for an hour and still wouldn't walk out without a raise. Now he's been telling me for months I'll get a raise at my 1 year. I did not. I haven't brought it up yet. He is giving us extra money in our commission checks for working during this outbreak, so I feel like if I bring it up, that is going to be his reason for not giving it to me. I do plan on bringing it up next week when my coworker has a day off and it will be just us in the office. I can't think of another reason to not get a raise. He's never had to talk to me about anything. I've never been late to work. I've never called in sick. I work hard. I make sales and I know my job. The only thing he complains to me about is the way I do sales, but that's because he believes in annoying and calling the same person 3 times a day and bullying them into buying your product, and I won't do that. Which brings me to my second reason for leaving. I hate sales. I do love insurance, and I love having my own little niche where I know way more about the topic than the majority of people don't. I love selling someone a product and having them walk out genuinely understanding their policies, why they need the coverage they do, and having them feel comfortable about it. But I hate my boss's view of sales. He wants us on the phone constantly, blowing up people's phones and bullying them into buying our product. I'm not an aggressive salesperson, so it's just not something I can do. He also doesn't understand that times are changing. No one answers the phone to a number they don't know, and no one listens to our voicemails. Obviously, I actually don't know that's the truth, but still. He refuses to let us text or email people, has no social media presence, etc. He wants us to strictly do business on the phone. Trying to bring up alternatives turns into an hour-long lecture, so neither of us has say in anything. We just smile and nod. Anyways, I have no idea if I should stick it out and deal or if I should just start looking for a new job. Is it possible to look for a new job, send out resumes without my boss finding out? I definitely give my 2 weeks notice, but I don't know how he would react to me looking for another job. Makes me nervous since he is definitely an intimidating guy and I hate being yelled at. Where do I even start? I don't know what I want to do. Any advice is appreciated. The other background information I feel like might matter is that I've been in a relationship for a bit now, and we've started talking about kids. if I'm going to get a new job, I want to do it ASAP, so I'm not starting a job and then having to go on maternity leave. I also would like to prefer a job that offers health insurance since I have to get my own by the end of the year. If you actually read all this, I appreciate you very much. Ended up way longer than I wanted, but I feel like maybe I'm looking for someone to tell me to suck it up and my job isn't that bad. I don't know. I have no idea what I want. That's why I'm here. Wow. Okay. So lots to take in there. So to me, it sounds like you've already kind of punched the clock on this job and you're just kind of waiting for some reassurance that you're on the right track. You're in a position that, from what it sounds like, isn't really a viable option for you, not only financially, but the perks aren't there either. And usually people can tolerate a lower paying job or even a bad boss if there are some perks that make staying worth it. In your situation, though, other than the fact that your boss might be flexible, it doesn't really seem like a good enough reason to stay. Now, that's just on the surface level, just taking what you said at face value. You said you haven't really talked to him about your concerns. You're going to bring it up later when it's just you two in the office. But, that kind of, you might have actually kind of, I guess, bit yourself by waiting, because you have a lot of good insight on marketing and good business practices. So I get the impression that those are just extra reasons on top of the main ones as to why you dislike your boss. To me, the real reason is just your communication and your respect for him just isn't there. But also remember, communication in situations like this need to be a two-way street. Since he's not a good communicator, bosses, I think there's this sort of like, perception that people have that even if it's subconsciously that person's the boss, they should know to reach out to me. They should see that I'm upset, so they should talk to me about it. And I'm not going to, and they kind of have this attitude, well, I'm not going to say anything if they don't say anything because it's not worth it. And then what happens is things start to fester and then they boil over and they get into the situation where you're in, where they went from something that was annoying and a little bit frustrating to now it's unsalvageable. So you've kind of let him off the hook a little bit because by not bringing up the issues, you've sort of excused his bad behavior. There's been times in my career where like a paycheck was off and I felt like I was shorted money or, but it wasn't like a significant amount. So I was like, you know what? It's not worth it. I don't really want to make I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill kind of thing. Or I don't want to be a burden. And, what happened was, as things continued to happen, or if it happened again, I'd find myself frustrated. And then when things actually turned out, I'd have a disagreement or I was in a kind of a conflict with the supervisor about something else, all I could think about was like, oh, I should have gotten that money. Now, that came up as an issue in addition to things that were truly wrong. So it made a bad situation worse because I didn't address it at the beginning. Another thing I noticed is you said you wanted to leave your current job because your boss is condescending and hypocritical, but later on you said he's very flexible and family-oriented. So you also said that you and your previous boss just talk crap about each other and couldn't get along, and now a year later you're with another boss who you don't get along with. So the question has to be is, what is your role in any of this? Is it possible? And I'm not there. And I didn't experience this firsthand. So, but is it possible that you and your current boss also started off fine and then, there was disagreements, there's some, trash talking or something disrespectful he said or you said, and the respect was lost. And right now, it's gotten to the point where things have gone so far that neither of you respect each other. The reason I ask this is, you mentioned things like pay and business practice he has, which are legitimate reasons to be frustrated. Even enough to quit, when it comes to like not getting paid what you were promised. But you didn't give a specific example of anything he did that's condescending or hypocritical. I'm wondering if the frustration with a few things is sort of taking its toll to the point where you're just kind of like throwing it all together, and it's all sat there for so long and it's been stewing inside of you, then now it's just kind of like everything is wrong. So with that being said, it sounds like from your point of view, the situation is unsalvageable and you're done and ready to move on. So if that's the case, there's no real reason to worry if he finds out if you're looking. Especially if he's aware that you're upset about not getting paid what you're owed and all those other reasons you listed. If anything, he should expect it. Even if he offered to pay it all back now, you don't respect him. So if he finds out you're leaving, which he really won't, unless you apply to a job where he knows someone who's going to tell him, it's like, who cares? But the thing is, what you have to do is you have to consider, once you leave, what are the next steps? And that's more the question that you need to focus on. To me, that's where your priority needs to be, is not whether you should quit or not, because I think you kind of punched the clock on that one. So what kind of job comes next? You have a bit of a random job history, so you may need to consider your next move in terms of, like, are you just looking for a job that pays health insurance? Or are you looking for, like, a career that you want to have for, like, years that you can develop in, and then, into a certain field where that becomes, like, your, thing, like. And the reason I ask is, you didn't mention anything about going back to school. You said you didn't want to do it for, teaching, pre-K, because, the money's not going to be there, but you didn't mention it for any other field. You didn't mention anything about getting a certificate either. So here's the thing, like, if you're just looking for a job, what's going to happen is you probably are going to end up taking a job where you're going to be like some type of front-end manager type job, like frontline staff, that you don't really like, that you can tolerate. And you're just going to be back in the same cycle over and over again, where you're going to either be dealing with really annoying customers that you don't want to deal with, or you're going to be stuck with a boss that maybe isn't qualified or competent, and you're going to be frustrated that way. So then what you're going to do is you're going to quit after 3 months to a year, and you'll be back again in the same area. So there's a couple things you really need to do. Number one is you need to figure out, what type of job do you want? Like, where do you want to be? Like, what is your end goal in getting this job? Number two is, where is your role? What can you do to prevent what happened with your previous supervisor and your current supervisor? Because my guess is there's some type of pattern there that's happening, that you need to figure out. What point was it that you lost respect for your boss, or they lost respect for you, or what types of things trigger those where you get frustrated and you got to figure that out so you can avoid that in the future. You also need to consider, like, is it time to just, can you get by on, just your, on one salary with your significant other if they're working, and you worry about, your family for now, and then, worry about, your career after, you have kids or whatever. So those are some things that you really need to look at. Those are the 3 priorities you really need to consider before you just jump right into another job, because looking at things, I just think you're going to be even more frustrated if you do that. So anyways, I hope this helps. If you'd like to chat more, I'm more than willing to listen. You may also want to check out my video on how to approach a conversation with someone in an authority position if you're still looking for tips on how to have that conversation with your boss. Also, if you enjoyed this content, please give me a subscribe or a thumbs up. And I guess that's it. Again, feel free to reach out to me. Thanks again. Have a great day, and we will see you soon.